Right, let's move on. Before we come to this statement, I must advise the House that the case relating to Ann Widdecombe's death is not yet sub judice, as charges have not been brought. However, there is a live criminal investigation ongoing, and members should take care not to say anything in this House that might prejudice the future trial. I therefore urge members to avoid speculating about the guilt or innocence of any person, the identity of the person who has been arrested, or the motive for the attack. Members may wish to discuss the general arrangements for security, safety of politicians and other connected matters, but they should avoid discussing the detail of individual members' security arrangements. I now call on the Home Secretary.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a statement about the death of Ann Widdecombe. It is with great sadness that I say those words. My thoughts today are with her family, her friends, and all those who loved her. Ann Widdecombe dedicated her life to politics and public service. For nearly 40 years, she was a fixture of our political life. She brought conviction to our politics, grounded in her profound Catholic faith. She was forthright in her opinions and argued courageously for the things she believed in. But perhaps most of all, she brought an inimitable style to politics. She was forthright and fearless. As Lord Howard of Lymm can attest, she had a memorable turn of phrase, and she was joyful. She thought seriously about ideas, but she did not take herself too seriously, and that allowed her to reach beyond this place and charm the country at large. She was one of those rare politicians who was bigger than politics. There have been so many moving tributes in the last few days, reflecting her impact both within this place and beyond politics. But I think her outlook on life is best summed up by Anne herself. Sitting on Graham Norton's sofa, she said, and I quote, "We get one go this side of eternity, one go. Life is not a dress rehearsal. You take opportunities that you like and you go for it." Anne took her opportunities. She was the proud MP for Maidstone for 23 years, a champion of her constituents. She served the country in government as Minister for Employment and then Prisons, and she took politics out of these ancient walls and became a bona fide TV star. Her contribution to our politics and our national life will never be forgotten. Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday, Ann Widdecombe was murdered in her home. The circumstances of her death are extremely distressing. Counter-terrorism policing have now taken the lead in the investigation. As Lawrence Taylor, the head of National Counter-Terrorism Policing, has said, and I quote, "We now have new information and evidence that means counter-terrorism policing is leading the investigation. We are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack." The police now have a suspect in custody, a 28-year-old white British man, and I can confirm to the House that this man was not known to prevent. The police have cautioned against speculating about the case. That is the right thing to do for Anne's family and friends. It is also vital that the police are given the space they need to carry out their work. For now, what matters most is supporting the investigation so that we can see justice delivered for Anne and all who loved her. And I would urge anyone with any information at all to come forward immediately. Mr. Speaker, I know this raises questions about the security of those in public life. I will not be the only one here thinking also of two other beloved members of this House, Joe Cox and Sir David Amess. Politics is a calling for those of us here, but it should not be a dangerous one. And so it is incumbent on the House and the Government to work together to protect those who choose to serve. The Home Office and the police work closely with the Parliamentary Security Department to provide practical advice and support directly to MPs. But we must always be vigilant to changing threats and respond. Security measures are kept under constant review to ensure MPs can carry out their duties safely. And I know that the police intend to issue guidance to MPs soon, and they will be contacting parliamentarians in their constituencies to offer support. I also recently commissioned the former Lord Chancellor, Sir Robert Buckland, to review the lessons from Sir David Amess's murder, including into required improvements to security for MPs working in their constituencies. I recognise the particular concern that the Reform Party will feel today, and of course Nigel Farage, the party's leader. I'm happy to offer a meeting for Mr Farage with the chair of RAVIC, the independent body within the Home Office that manages the security of those in public life. And I will also be looking at what security guidance can be provided to former members of Parliament, which I hope to work with you on, Mr Speaker, as well as those who serve a party outside of this place. Today is a dark day in our political life, but we must also use it as an opportunity to celebrate Ann Widdecombe's memory. She was a unique figure in our politics, a distinctive and devoted public servant, the likes of whom we will rarely, if ever, see again. Anne had a profound faith. Her journey in this life has ended too soon. May she now rest in eternal peace. I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phil.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Home Secretary for advance sight of her statement. I start by offering my deepest condolences to Anne's family and friends. She will be terribly missed. Anne sat as the Conservative MP for Maidstone for nearly a quarter of a century and in the European Parliament for the Brexit Party. She served in government and in opposition, including as Shadow Home Secretary. She always fearlessly spoke her mind. She did not worry about whether her opinion would be popular or would be fashionable. She always said exactly what she believed and exactly what she thought. Her integrity and her fortitude were unmatched. I first met Anne 29 years ago at a university debate, speaking on opposite sides. I was a callow 21-year-old student. She had just left government and was at the height of her powers. I remember starting my speech by asking her to treat me more gently than she had recently treated Michael Howard. Needless to say, I was put very firmly in my place. Anne was also a much-loved celebrity with memorable appearances on Strictly Come Dancing and Celebrity Big Brother, including being whirled around by, I think it was Anton Dubek. So we will all remember Anne fondly as a public figure who was always formidable, she was always charming, and she was always entertaining. Now, Mr Speaker, as we discuss this appalling murder, we should heed the words of Devon and Cornwall Assistant Chief Constable Matt Longman, who said at the weekend this: "We are aware of online and public speculation, particularly with regard to motive. I urge people not to share or engage with speculation. It is unhelpful and distressing to Anne's friends and family, and particularly harmful to our investigation." Criminal barrister Dennis Kavanagh also recently pointed out that speculation makes the police's job harder and in some cases could even prejudice a trial. And I urge everyone debating this issue to keep that in mind. Mr Speaker, it has just been confirmed by the Home Secretary that counter-terrorism police are now leading the murder investigation. So to help avoid that speculation, is there any further information the Home Secretary can properly share about this without prejudicing the investigation? I'd like to thank the police for releasing the information they have so far, including about the identity of the suspect. It is always important to release as much information as possible in the interest of transparency and to avoid misinformation filling the void, as Jonathan Hall KC, the independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, has said previously. Let me turn now to threats against those in public life. Any threats against MPs who have been democratically elected to represent their constituents or others in public life should be taken extremely seriously. In the last 10 years, 2 MPs, Joe Cox and Sir David Amess, have been murdered. And now a former MP has been murdered as well. The threat is clearly real. I also remember in 2017 when terrorist Khalid Massoud drove a car into pedestrians along Westminster Bridge, injuring more than 50 people, 4 fatally, and then ran into New Palace Yard, just yards from where we sit here, where he fatally stabbed PC Keith Palmer. That was also an attack on democracy itself. And Mr Speaker, I would like to thank you personally for all the work you are doing to protect MPs and those in public life. I know that as the Speaker of the House of Commons, you have made the safety and protection of those in public life your highest priority, and I would like to thank you for that. We must redouble our efforts to ensure that public political figures who are MPs and those like Anne who are not MPs always receive the proportionate protection they need. I'd be grateful if the Home Secretary could confirm that she will review all the arrangements with this objective in mind. I believe in this country we should be able to debate each other robustly on important issues, but should also speak to each other in a way that is civil and respectful. Of course, nothing excuses violent attacks on public figures, but we should all also set an example of civility and calm and not inflame. Mr. Speaker, we need people to step up and become MPs and also speak in the public square. Debate and disagreement are what make our country great. Ann Widdecombe exemplified that every minute of her life. I pay tribute to her. I know we will all remember Anne forever.
Yeah. Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me thank the Shadow Home Secretary both for his own remarks and memories of Ann Widdecombe and also for his questions. Let me say to him that in relation to the new information that has come to light and the progress on the counter-terrorism policing investigation, there is a statement that has been put out by counter-terrorism policing, which I believe has been published online, but I will make sure it is placed in the library of the House as well. The main things to draw out for that are the fact, as I said in my statement, that new information and evidence means that they are now leading the investigation and that they are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry in order to establish the motivation of this attack. As soon as more information is available that is capable of being shared without compromising any future trial process, that will be done. So we take seriously, and I know counter-terrorism policing take very seriously the learnings from the summer of 2024 and definitely to heed the call of Jonathan Hall, Casey and others on timely release of information without compromising the ability to bring someone ultimately to justice, which is of course the main aim when such a horror of an attack happens. Let me also, Mr. Speaker, say I would like to echo the remarks made by the Shadow Home Secretary to you and to thank you personally for all of your efforts in maintaining the safety and security of parliamentarians. I know it's something that you personally worry about and take a deep interest in. Let me also say given the fast-moving nature of this investigation, I don't want to say anything that will prejudice the direction of travel here. However, there is a question that is raised in this as a result of this murder, which relates not just to the security arrangements for sitting members of Parliament, but for those who have left this place, but nevertheless retain a public profile as a result of their political party membership or their political activities. There are also, given the range of new political parties that are contesting the political and democratic space. I think questions about those who are not represented at all here in the House of Commons. And just to reassure you, Mr. Speaker, I will be looking at those arrangements very closely. I will seek to work with Mr. Speaker directly, and my officials will engage with parties across this House and those outside of it to make sure that whatever changes are made are done so in a manner that covers the multiple range of threats that we see. Mr. Speaker, I think there has been a step change in the security of parliamentarians over the last few years, but I think that it is a reflection of the multi-layered threats that our democracy faces and that our active individuals in democracy face, that this is not something we can ever take for granted or believe is settled. It is something that we have to continually review, which we do, and there are new questions that are raised, which I will make it my personal business to answer, and I will update the House in due course.
Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are all reeling with shock, sadness and anguish at the loss of our Anne, and also the manner in which she has been taken from us. She was a colossus in public life, in political life, a legend adored and loved by millions and millions of people, including my own late mother, for whom she spoke so very warmly of Anne. She was a remarkable lady. She had an incredible work ethic. She would think nothing of going the length and breadth of the country to speak at rallies. She was an incredible orator who always spoke without notes. Absolutely remarkable. And her philosophy to life, the Home Secretary touched on it, she viewed life as it's not a dress rehearsal. You grasp every opportunity. You go for it as far as possible. Her career, her political career here, Mr. Speaker, I checked earlier. In 23 years, she made over 8,000 contributions in this place, and some remarkable witty interventions. When an honourable member said that she should disappear with her broomstick, she immediately replied, "I have my broomstick and I will cast a spell over you." and that was her nature. Likewise, her media career was also remarkable. She was an agony aunt in 2 programmes. She was a most deserving semi-finalist in Strictly Come Dancing, for sure. And of course, Celebrity Big Brother. And she was an incredible panto performer that was adored by so many. Her conviction, her passion, and her advocacy for free speech was to be commended. I had the honour of working with her for the last 7 years, and despite being a foot taller than her, I somehow always found myself looking up to her. And she also, when she phoned, I always stood up on my toes, incoming, beware. And that was Anne, and we will miss her dearly. And I also think that the Scottish whisky industry has lost a very discerning customer. And maybe there could be a limited edition, Widder's Whisky, where the tasting notes may reflect unique, unforgettable flavours, a fiery, spicy series of tones, but a blend to be treasured to eternity. May she rest in peace, Mr. Speaker. And I just asked the Home Secretary in conclusion, could she ensure that the counter-terrorism unit keep us updated on as regular possible basis? And given the nature of these things, we all want our police forces to do brilliantly, of course. Would it be wise, when considering motivation, when giving us early updates, to keep things being open-ended as opposed to motive, as opposed to ruling things out too quickly that may then end up being ruled back in? Yeah.
Well, let me first say to the honourable gentleman that was a very moving and affecting tribute to Ann Widdecombe. Let me say on Widder's Whisky, as a teetotal Muslim, I would never be able to partake of such a drink, although if there is a non-alcoholic version available, I will happily imbibe. Let me say to him, we will of course make sure that as and when it is possible to share more information about the circumstances of the murder and the motivation that is done so in the appropriate way, and also to reassure him at no point has anything been taken off the table in terms of the investigation. It's a live investigation. It is not unusual in these matters that in a fast-paced investigation, more information comes to light that changes the nature or the character of what we think we are dealing with. And I am reassured that Devon and Cornwall Police have been working really closely with counter-terrorism policing, and as soon as this additional information was made available, counter-terrorism policing have taken over as is appropriate and as is the right thing to do. And also let me just echo what he said in terms of our best wishes for the police as they continue this investigation. Godspeed.
Suella Braverman. Speaker, Anne's tragic murder has shocked the nation. Dear Anne was the personification of political courage, patriotic tradition and the importance of faith. I got to know Anne through her immense support to the Amos family as Home Secretary when we unveiled that plaque, a poignant reminder of the threat facing our democracy today. And the nation has lost an exemplary public servant and a force of nature in Anne. Now, many people will be free to disagree with Anne's views, but some of the online comment that we've seen in the aftermath has been frankly disgusting. And when it's come from so-called reputable journalists, like those who work at Sky News, the Mail on Sunday, or when we've read some conspiracy theories, frankly, from The Times, we've also had a Labour MP apologise today for her intemperate comments. Does the Home Secretary agree with me that that kind of language only serves to worsen this problem that we're dealing with, not be part of the solution? And will she join me in urging some calm amongst the media and those on the left to afford Anne some dignity in her death, some respect to their opponents, instead of whipping up hatred?
Well, let me say to the Honourable Lady, I have seen some, not all of the comments that she's referred to, but I have seen some of them and they were deplorable and completely unacceptable. I know an apology has been made in relation to one set of comments that was made on, I believe, on Sky News. I know that others have reacted with horror and anger at comments that were designed to denigrate Anne's political views and to deny her dignity in death. And let me say, I share with her an absolute revulsion to that behaviour towards an elderly woman who has lost her life in very distressing and deeply tragic circumstances. It has no place in our politics or in our national life, and I hope, and I know, in fact, that all members of this House will agree with that, and I would urge all on every part of the political spectrum, wherever they may sit, to exercise calm and careful judgment before we hit the send button on a social media message. A little time, a little reflection is often the best thing in these circumstances.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. There are no words to express the sadness that we feel about the passing of Ann Widdecombe, but the sadness, unfortunately, is turning to anger. Anger not just at the social media companies, but also all of us in this place and the politicians and some of the language that we use in this place. And Reform UK MPs have been labelled as racists, as Nazis, as bigots by people serving in this place, and that undoubtedly increases the risk of attacks on politicians on this side. But is the Home Secretary aware of any increased risk to Reform UK MPs?
Let me say to the honourable gentleman, I think that it is important that all members of the House are careful and calm in the way that we describe other members of this House and the work done by other members in this House. I think that we have to imagine how we would feel if we were on the receiving end of that and try to treat others the way we wish to be treated ourselves. And I would certainly want to make sure that I say from this dispatch box for myself and for the government that any abuse or harassment of members of Parliament to other members of Parliament is unacceptable as well. We should all moderate our language. We also have to get the right balance in this place between fierce and contested political debate, which happens on both the right and the left of the spectrum, and then also making sure that we don't slip into behaviours that increase threat to any of our colleagues. It is a difficult balance sometimes to strike in the heat of the moment, in the heat of a very polarised debate, but we still have a responsibility to show our best selves at work, as it were, and I would always caution all members, before you say anything quickly, just take a minute to reflect and then think about what you're about to say. Let me say to him on specific threat, no, I am not aware. He knows that I wouldn't ever comment on threats because, or indeed arrangements that are in place for any member or indeed others in public life, only because to comment starts to affect the integrity of the overall system. But I will make sure, as I've said, that in relation to the leader of Reform UK, that he's offered a meeting with the independent chair of RAVEC to discuss specific issues relating to risk assessment. And if there are any other matters in relation to risk assessment, I know that the police are monitoring that very carefully and will discuss with all political parties in this House any additional changes that they might wish to make.
Robert Jenrick.
Can I join colleagues across the House in paying tribute to Anne, a woman who was brave, principled, kind and generous. I, like many others, will miss her enormously, even though on my first morning as a Member of Parliament, when I was the youngest MP, I met her in Westminster Hall and she asked me, am I here on work experience? I think I've eventually shed my MP nappies. The Home Secretary is the ultimate arbiter of what happened in the Home Office. She isn't powerless and no one would pretend so. Would she agree that it was unwise of the government to heavily reduce the security offered to the member for Clacton, given all that we know about his particular danger that is posed to him and to his family? Would she agree that, frankly, it shouldn't have taken the murder of Anne for him to be offered a meeting with the committee? and that many will conclude, perhaps unfairly, but nonetheless, that it is only because of the political views of the member for Clacton that he is placed in this position? And will she use her power as Home Secretary to make sure that the security that he and his family needs is put in place immediately?
Yeah.
Well, let me say to the honourable gentleman, he will know that it is an independent process within the Home Office that deals with the risk assessment and risk management of those in public life. I'm not going to compromise the integrity of those arrangements by commenting in any detail on specific instances. Let me simply say and observe, as in the 10 months I've been in the Home Office, I have seen media reports in relation to various suggested risk assessments and risk mitigations. I have never commented whether to say something is true or false, simply because I believe that you should not breach that principle of not commenting so as to protect the integrity of the system. But that the meeting has been offered. Let me assure him in relation to Ravik, it is and will always be fiercely independent. It must be, because the protection that is offered and the level of protection and the tactics of protection that are offered to people must never be based on a political assessment of who needs it, but an independent operational assessment of what risk is and how it is best managed. And I do think that that operational independence is incredibly important, and I will always maintain it and protect it. And I know the government as a whole will do so as well.